Every year, experts and websites release their rankings of the best high school football players in the country. Now, usually, these rankings are a pretty good indicator of how a prospect will perform in college and eventually how high they'll be drafted. But these rankings aren't perfect. And every year, players that came out of high school with little to no hype are able to go in the first few rounds of the draft. This year will be no different, so I put together this list of 5 players who will exceed their high school recruiting rankings at this year's NFL Draft. Before I get into it, just remember to subscribe to the channel. Now here's the list of 5 players. Jonathan Taylor is the record-setting running back coming out of Wisconsin this year, and although he's been a 2-time All-American and 2-time Doak Walker Award winner, none of these accolades were expected of him when he signed with Wisconsin back in 2016. He was part of the high school class of 2017, and he wasn't that highly regarded of a prospect. He was the 41st running back in his class, was only given 3 stars, and had an overall scout grade of only 79. Now, he did have a decent list of offers his senior year, and he had originally committed to play football in his home state of New Jersey at Rutgers, but he ultimately changed his mind and committed to Wisconsin. He came into Wisconsin not expected to really contribute much his freshman year, but after an injury to one of the backs ahead of him on the depth chart and an incredibly productive fall camp, Taylor was elevated to the team's co-starting running back role to start that freshman year. It didn't take him long to prove that he was one of the best running backs in the entire country, as he finished his freshman year with 1,977 yards, which was good enough for 3rd in all the FBS for rushing. After such a great freshman year, he came into his sophomore season as one of the most highly regarded backs in all of college football. He was a consensus preseason All-American. He was included in preseason watch lists, including the Maxwell Award, Doak Walker Award, and the Walter Camp Award. Taylor definitely lived up to those expectations as he led the FBS in rushing yards and was named a unanimous first-team All-American, first-team All-Big Ten, and he won the Doak Walker Award as the nation's top running back. Of course, coming back into his junior year, again he was named as one of the highest regarded players in the country, while being considered a preseason Heisman Trophy candidate by almost every single outlet and expert. Taylor again lived up to the expectations as he was able to lead his Badgers team to the Big Ten championship game, and even though they lost, he was still able to take them to the Rose Bowl. Now, during the Rose Bowl, Taylor passed the 2,000-yard rushing mark and became only the 2nd player ever to rush for 2 2,000-yard seasons. Because of this production, he was again named as a unanimous first-team All-American, first-team All-Big Ten, the Big Ten Running Back of the Year, and the Doak Walker Award winner for the 2nd year in a row. Now, after this year, he decided to forego his senior season, and he's entering this year's draft. Now, different draft experts have Taylor going as high as the 1st round or to a number of teams in the 2nd. Regardless of whether he goes in the 1st or 2nd round, he's going to absolutely blow away the expectations that people had for him coming out of high school. Next up, we have Justin Herbert, the quarterback this year coming out of Oregon. Herbert actually grew up only 10 minutes from the Ducks Stadium and was a lifelong Oregon fan. He'd always wanted to play for his hometown team, but a broken leg in the 3rd game of his junior year caused major programs to overlook him. In his senior year of high school, he was rated as the 26th pocket passer in the country and was only given 3 stars and an overall scout grade of 78. Northern Arizona, Portland State, and Montana State were his only offers until Nevada and Oregon finally offered him during his senior year. Herbert followed his dreams and committed to his hometown Oregon team and entered the freshman season listed as QB2 on the depth chart. Now, what made Herbert's potential of starting even more difficult was that he wasn't even the highest rated quarterback in Oregon's recruiting class. That was Terry Wilson, a 4-star recruit from Oklahoma, who was the 6th overall dual threat quarterback in the 2016 high school class. Herbert remained the number 2 quarterback on the depth chart until being named the starter going into the 6th game of the season. He was the first true freshman at Oregon to start a game at quarterback since 1983. He didn't end up playing well, but Oregon finished with a record of 4-8, their worst record in 25 years. Now, during his sophomore year, Herbert and the Ducks started strong with a 4-1 record, but he suffered a fractured collarbone and was out until the last 2 regular season games. Because of the success he had when he was healthy in his sophomore year, Herbert entered his junior year as an early Heisman Trophy candidate. But he had to deal with his 3rd head coach and his 3rd different offensive scheme. He did lead Oregon to a 9-4 record, passed for a little over 3,000 yards, and threw for 29 touchdowns. In a move that shocked a lot of people, Herbert decided to return for his senior year instead of going to the pros, where he was projected to be a 1st-round draft pick. During his senior year, Herbert led the Ducks to a 12-2 record, and a win in the Rose Bowl where he won the offensive MVP. After the season, he participated in the Senior Bowl where he not only impressed scouts but was also named the 2020 Senior Bowl MVP. In the upcoming draft, every expert has Herbert going in the first round, and some even have him as high as a top 5 pick. Regardless of where he goes, he drafted significantly higher than what anybody expected of him coming out of high school. Going from one quarterback to another, now we have Jordan Love. He's defied the odds ever since high school and has become one of the most interesting prospects in this year's NFL draft. Now, if you don't know the traditional way that quarterbacks and highly recruited players are scouted, college coaches know about these guys from the time they're freshmen in high school all the way through their senior year. Love was different. Before his senior year, Love didn't have a single Division I football offer. The only reason the Utah State coaches knew about him was because Love went to a summer camp at the school before his senior year. This lack of knowledge about his football abilities across the country really showed in all his scout ratings. He was the 62nd dual threat quarterback in his class, was only given 2 stars, and had an overall scout grade of 68. He ended up redshirting his first year at Utah State, and coming into his redshirt freshman year, he wasn't named the starter. He did play in 12 games and was named the starter for the final 6 games of the year. His performance during his redshirt sophomore year was what really put him on the map. He started all 13 games and racked up 3,567 passing yards with 32 touchdowns and only 6 interceptions. Love led Utah State to a 10-2 regular season record, a win in their bowl game, and a 21st ranking in the country in the coaches poll. Because of how good he played in his redshirt sophomore year, he came into his redshirt junior year with a lot of expectations. He was placed on several preseason watch lists, including the Maxwell, Walter Camp, and Davey O'Brien Ward watch lists. Unfortunately, he didn't live up to those expectations, but he still had a solid year. He threw for a little over 3,400 yards, but his touchdowns dropped to 20, his interceptions skyrocketed from 6 the previous year to 17. After this past season, he announced he'd forego his senior year and enter the draft. Just like Justin Herbert, the experts aren't completely in agreement on where he'll go, but everyone does agree that he will go in the first round, and some people potentially have him as a top 10 pick. Regardless of where he goes in the first round, no one expected this from the quarterback who only had one FBS offer coming out of high school. The first 3 names on my list you've definitely heard of before. But a name that everyone should know before this draft is Netane Muti, the offensive guard coming out of Fresno State. Currently, he's projected to go in the 2nd round, and this blows away the expectations he had coming out of high school because simply, he had 0 expectations. During his senior season in 2016, Muti had 0 scholarship offers. He filled out an application for his hometown University of Hawaii and planned to walk on to the football team. On signing day, his plans changed when Hawaii officially offered him and he happily signed. After that is when things got weird. Muti received a letter after signing day saying that he wasn't accepted to the university because he applied as a regular student. His letter of intent with Hawaii was voided, and he was free to go to another school. Hawaii did try to recruit him again, but this time Fresno State came into the mix. Based on the guidance of his family, Muti decided to attend Fresno State. The last 3 players I went over had relatively low scouting grades, but Muti was special. For his position rank, he was an NR, not ranked. He wasn't given a star ranking, and his overall scout grade was, again, a not ranked. To add just a little extra weirdness to the situation, all the issues with his recruiting happened so late in the process that Muti was listed on ESPN that he signed with Hawaii. Ever since arriving at Fresno State, he's been plagued with injuries. He redshirted the entire 2016 season because of an Achilles injury, played in only the first 2 games of 2018 season because he ruptured his Achilles, and he only started 3 games in 2019 because of a Liz Frank injury. In his only full healthy season, which was in 2017, he started all 14 games at left guard for the Bulldogs and was named an honorable mention to the All-Mountain West Conference team. Even with all these questions about his durability and the injury issues that he's had, experts still have him going anywhere from the 2nd round to the 3rd. A big reason for these projections is because during this year's combine, Muti put up the most reps on the bench press of any participant. His 44 reps were 7 more than the 2nd best person at the combine. Regardless of where he goes in the draft, the guard coming out of Fresno State proved that he was exponentially better than his NR ranking. The final name I got on my list is Brandon Aiyuk, the wide receiver out of Arizona State. He grew up in Reno, Nevada, and played both defensive back and wide receiver while also returning kicks for his team. As far as his high school rating goes, I wasn't able to find anything on him. I wasn't able to find a scout grade or any stars. Now remember, one player before this, Netani Muti, was at least given an NR or a not ranked by ESPN and other sites. Maybe I just missed it, but Aiyuk was so low that he didn't even register any of these sites, and even though he was named a first-team All-Northern Nevada player and an honorable mention to the All-State team as a senior, he didn't have anything. With that being said, he was still offered by UNLV out of high school, but he was offered as a defensive back. He did play the majority of his snaps in high school as a defensive back, but he wanted to be a wide receiver at the next level, so instead of going to UNLV, he opted to begin his college football career at Sierra College, a community college in California. While at Sierra, he totaled 2,499 all-purpose yards and 21 touchdowns over his 2-year career. Because of how well he played, he was able to get 12 offers from schools like Kansas, Tennessee, and Alabama even late in the process. Because of Herm Edwards and his coaching staff, he decided to attend Arizona State. He ended up having a solid first year at Arizona State, catching 33 passes for 474 yards and 3 touchdowns. The only player on Arizona State's roster that had more receiving yards than Aiyuk was N'Keal Harry, a first-round draft pick in last year's draft. With Harry having gone to the pros, Aiyuk came into the season as the Sun Devils' #1 receiving threat, and he was recognized as a preseason third-team All-Pac-12 conference player. He lived up to these expectations in his senior season, recording 1,192 yards and 8 touchdowns. As a returner, he racked up 14 punt returns for 226 yards and 1 touchdown, and as a kick returner, he had 14 kickoffs for 446 yards. Because of this production, he was named to the first-team All-Pac-12 team as both a wide receiver and as a return specialist. After this senior season, he's been preparing for the draft and had a pretty good showing at the NFL Combine. Almost every mock draft has him going in the 2nd round, but some outliers have him going at the end of the 1st, and some have him going in the 3rd. Regardless, Brandon Aiyuk is going to blow away his high school rankings because, well, he didn't have any. Alright, thanks to everyone for listening to my list of 5 players that'll blow away their high school star rankings and expectations when they get drafted this year. Now, obviously, there's a lot more players than these 5 that'll do a lot better than what anyone expected of them coming out of high school, but for now, these are the 5 I wanted to highlight. Thanks for listening, everyone, and remember to subscribe to the channel. Have a good one.